This is an overview of the second midterm study guide. Question 1 is from Chapter 6, Explain the focus of labeling theory and its origins. So there's a very good discussion about labeling theory and its origins. There's a lot of discussion about its relationship to the work of Howard Becker as well as other theorists, other sociologists. So make sure that you're explaining that in some detail. All right, don't just make a statement and then be done with it. Make sure that you're providing some details. Discuss positive labeling. Does positive labeling exist? There's a discussion in the textbook about positive labeling. Some say it exists, some say it doesn't. What do you think? Make sure you review that section before you provide your answer and provide reasons, 2 reasons for your opinion. Explain how either positive or negative labeling played a role in your adolescence. Give at least 2 examples. All right, so this is just about you. Give at least 2 examples of how labeling played a role in your adolescence. Finally, explain how liberal feminist theorists argue that androcentrism and patriarchy have influenced the way that juvenile delinquency was studied. Right, so lots of good information there about the way that juvenile delinquency has been studied for a very long time, with this focus on males as well as how society is set up in a very patriarchal manner. So make sure that as you read through that section, you're also thinking about how think about juvenile delinquency because of those 2 concepts. Question number 2, explain how child maltreatment is related to juvenile delinquency. There is a lot of information in the textbook based on studies about how being mistreated as a child can be related to juvenile delinquency, to whether or not we will engage in juvenile delinquency. So make sure that you spend some time reviewing that section so that you can summarize it fairly well. Discuss 2 impacts of a parent in prison on juvenile delinquency. So again, a lot of studies about how having a parent or parents in prison seems to have some relationship to juvenile delinquency. Okay, so at least 2 of the impacts. Explain 2 findings from the research on how being a foster child, I'm just going to correct this real quick just to highlight it, relates to juvenile delinquency. Right, so 2 findings from the research on how being a foster child relates to juvenile delinquency. There's some correlation. Again, we never say causation because we can't say that one thing necessarily makes the other thing happen, but we can see a relationship or a correlation. If you were a warden at a prison, what is one change you would make that would allow for more meaningful interaction between incarcerated parents and their children? So just put some thought into this. There's a lot of information about how incarcerated parents are able to interact in a limited way with their children. So consider what's one thing that you could do to make it a little easier for them to have more meaningful interaction if you were a prison warden. Discuss the 4 ways juvenile delinquency is linked to school failure. Again, we're not saying that there's causation, but how it's linked. There's a relationship. Explain how tracking, alienation, and social class are correlated with juvenile delinquency. Remember to discuss each one of those separately. Don't just lump them together into a single sentence. Explain the prevalence of cyberbullying in schools. Analyze the strategies schools use to deal with cyberbullying and explain their effectiveness. Right? So lots of information about how cyberbullying happens in schools, the strategies that schools use to deal with this, and then the effectiveness of these strategies. Finally, question 4 is from chapter 5. Explain how anomie theories analyze the influence of race, social class, and gender on juvenile delinquency. Right? So early anomie theories did not focus on these things. And we can think back to in the chapter there, first part of the chapter, there's a discussion about Durkheim's anomie theory, Merton's taking his anomie theory and then creating what we know as Merton's theory. But they didn't think about race, social class, and gender. More recent anomie theorists have done this, and so there is a lot of information about race and how anomie theories analyze the influence of race on juvenile delinquency as well as social class and gender. Just make sure you are discussing each one separately. Provide details for each category. So as you discuss race, provide some details, social class, etc. Choose one anomie and one social disorganization theory and explain each in detail. Okay, so I put page 128 there so you can just take a quick look at that table, which is a summary of the various anomie theories and social disorganization theories. That way you can quickly choose one of each, and then you can go back and study the sections of those two theories that you chose. Which of the two theories you discuss best explains juvenile delinquency? Maybe you think it's one, maybe you think it's the other, maybe you think both do. It doesn't matter as long as you provide two reasons for your opinion. Okay, so that's it. Great thing to do if you, well, the best thing to do is to, of course, study all four. Another step would be to make an outline of each question. That way, when you log in to take the test, you can copy and paste that outline into the submission box for each question, and then you have a really good start for your answer, and you can just fill in the rest as you go. Another option, and quite a few people chose this option last time and probably will again, is to write a full answer for each one of these questions. And then when you log in to take the test and you see which two questions you received, you can copy and paste your full answer into each submission box and you're done. Either one of those works really well. What doesn't work well is to simply log in without having studied or studied very little and hope for the best.